Hey guys, thanks for joining me for an episode of Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and today we're going to take a look at a new game going up on Kickstarter called Lucidity. This is a 1 to 4 player game that takes roughly half an hour to 45 minutes to play. It is a competitive game, so each player is going to be working against the other players to gain the most power and be the winner at the end of the game. So this is a dice chucking, push your luck, light strategy game. So in the game itself, each player is playing a dreamer who is plagued and haunted by their nightmares. They are trying to gain control of their dreams by gaining power, or if they gain enough attention and enough shadows find them, then they will fall and become a nightmare. So as the game progresses, players are going to make a decision on which path they want to choose, or they're forced into it based on the dice that come up. And so there are multiple ways to win, and depending upon which role the player is playing, if they are a dreamer, they're going after power and trying to avoid other nightmares, and players can also turn into nightmares, in which case then you are going after other players and feeding off of them to gain your power. Either way, at the end of the game, the player that has the most points will be the winner of this game. So my opinions of this game so far, I've had a chance to play it a number of times already, and I've had a really good time with this one. I really do enjoy dice chucking games, as some of you guys that follow my channel know, and I really like what they're doing with some of these games now. It's not just like in past years where it's just a dice chucking game and there's not a lot of extra stuff to it. This particular game, and some of the other ones that I've had a chance to play this year, have really started to introduce some new elements to it. So it's a dice chucking game, which you're basically banking on your luck of rolling dice, but then there's also different ways that you can mediate that, and different strategies that you can perform and decisions you can make that really bring in more replayability to the game. And I really enjoy that. And like I said, in this game, you start out all as dreamers and you're going after power, but after a certain amount of time, maybe you're rolling terrible in this game, or the shadows are just overwhelming you. You then will become a nightmare, and the entire game changes at that point. When the first player or multiple players become nightmares, the entire dynamic of the game changes. The other players really have to make decisions then on what type of dice they're going to roll and the colors of the dice that come up, because based on those results, if a player is a nightmare of one of those 4 colors, those dice become even more terrifying for those other dreamers to roll, because they can be taken by the nightmare, and then the nightmare gets to activate their special ability, which normally can really cascade and be very effective against the other players. So I really like some of those aspects, because like I said, the entire dynamic of the game will change as soon as some of those players switch over to the other side. So in this video, we're going to go through and I'm going to show you guys some different turns of gameplay for this game, so you can see how the different elements interact and how the game plays and all that. I would highly recommend checking this one out when it launches on Kickstarter, as I will definitely be a supporter of this game, and I would definitely recommend checking it out, especially if you like dice chuckers and strategy games and just light filler games, as this one will definitely meet those needs. So on top of that, this particular video, all the content that's used in it, this is all prototype content. It's very good prototype, but it is a prototype, so this will not be the final product that you will be receiving when backing. When they do the mass production run of this game will get all the nice little bells and whistles, and I'm sure he's going to have some really nice surprises and stretch goals in mind as the campaign goes. So let's go ahead and head to the table, and I'll teach you guys how to play. Lucidity, the game, is going to come with 80 dice, 20 of each color, 4 glass dream markers, 4 quick turn reference guides, the 4 different nightmare cards, and the 4 different player cards, as well as a bag to randomly be able to draw the dice out of. There are 4 different color dice which cover each one of the different types of dreams, and each set of these dice is going to have different symbols or different combinations of symbols on the dice. So let's go ahead and take a look at the different symbols. So the first one with the little eyeball is going to be the shadow symbol, and when those are rolled, the players will resolve those in the order that they choose, which we're going to cover during the player turn. Then we have the symbols with the numbers in them. So these are the power symbols, and there's ones, and the red is the only one that has a power 2. And these are one of the ways the players will win the game, by collecting these symbols. Then we have the exhausted symbol, which if the players collect a certain number of these during their turn, there will be a penalty. And then finally we have the hunt symbol, which if the players gather enough of these, then they will lose the game automatically. Now I'm going to go ahead and break down the player board. So at the top of the board you have two different sections. You have the hunt section, which if you fill this at the end of your turn, then you will automatically lose the game and remove all of the dice from your board and return them to the bag. You still will participate in different effects that will affect, like, say, the next player, but as far as the game's concerned, you will not take a turn and roll dice for power anymore. Then we have the exhaust section, which if you fill that section at the end of your turn, then you will draw a random dice from the bag, and whatever color that comes up with, you will lose the power points associated with that color and return those to the bag. Then you have the sleep track, which there are 3 different sections for the sleep track, and at the beginning of your turn you're going to place your sleep marker at the start of one of these tracks. And based on the number that you choose to start on of whichever track is the number of dice that you'll roll at the beginning of your turn, as you guys will see when we head into the game. At the bottom of the card is your power level, and so that's your points at the end of the to gather up, and the first player to 15 will trigger the end of the game. Finally, over on the other side you have the shadow section, which covers the 4 different nightmares, which are the depths, envy, imprisonment, and primal fear. So as you roll dice during your turn, when you roll the shadow symbols, you will place those in their corresponding color in the shadow track. If at the end of each time you place a dice of the shadow symbol, you must resolve its effect that lists underneath that particular track. So for the depths, when you place a shadow symbol, it says that you're going to draw 1 dice from the dream bag and roll it again and resolve its effect. And if at the end of your turn you have filled a column of a particular color, and there's another spot in a 2-player game, so in a 2-player game you would need to have 4 to fill it, then you become a nightmare of that particular type. And so you would clear all the shadow dice off, as well as the exhaust and hunt dice, and you would gather that nightmare card and place it over that section. So at this point you are a nightmare of that particular type, and so you are still going after points, but you will not be a dreamer anymore, so you will not take a turn and roll dice and all that. Instead, during other players' turns, if they roll blue dice and they come up with the shadow symbol, you will gain those dice instead and add them to your points or your power track. On top of that, then you are going to be able to activate your particular power, which for the depths says that you will draw 2 dreams, return one of them to the bag, and the dreamer must roll the other and apply its effects. So each one of these nightmares has some really nasty abilities, so players that become nightmares do truly become terrifying to the other players. And you guys will see a little bit of that as we go into the gameplay video. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys setup. So the first thing you're going to do is place all the dice into the bag. Once they're in there, go ahead and mix the bag up really well. And then we can set this off to the side. From there, each player is going to receive a player dashboard, and we're going to set up for a 3-player game. Then each player will receive 1 glass dream marker. They will receive 1 player aid card. And then you can set the 4 different nightmares off to the side, as we won't use those yet. From here, then, we're going to decide the starting player. So each player is going to draw 3 random dreams out of the bag and roll them, and the player that has the most shadow symbols or eyeball symbols will be the first player to go. Now I'm going to go ahead and take you guys through a couple of player turns so you can see how that works. So at the beginning of a player's turn, which we're going to have our first player over here go, he's going to choose the level of control that he wants and place his dream marker on it. So we're going to go with the middle bracket, and so we're going to start out with 4. What that means is that we're going to draw 4 dreams from the bag, at random. From there, then we're going to choose 2 of these dreams to return to the bag. So let's go ahead and return a blue and a red. Then we're going to go ahead and roll these. And we were going to resolve, first off, the non-shadow symbols. So we're going to place the hunt symbol in our hunt space. And then we're going to resolve the shadow symbols. So this will go in the NV slot. And then we have to activate the ability under it. So it says reroll 1 dream of the next player's choice. So the next player to go would be our player over here. And so he's going to go ahead and not have him reroll anything, as the potential to get power out of this is pretty good. And there's no point in rerolling that, as he's good with that player doing that. So at this point, the player has a couple of choices. He can either choose to rest, which when he rests, he can remove 1 shadow symbol from one of the 4 brackets, or he can remove all of the sleep symbols from his exhausted state. His other option is to continue on his track. So he can increase it to the next level and draw that many dreams from the bag. So let's go ahead and show that. So he's going to go ahead and draw 6 dreams. Again, he's going to choose 2 of those to return to the bag. So let's go ahead and return 2 yellows. And then we'll roll the rest. Okay, so first we're going to do the non-shadow symbols. So we have 2 power that we'll place there. And then we're going to resolve these. And we can do this in any order we choose. So first off, we're going to go ahead and move this here, and then it says I'm going to switch one of my exhausted symbols to its shadow side, which just means that it's a lot harder to remove it from there, as you would have to choose it as 1 dice as opposed to removing all of the sleep symbols. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and place this here, and again, the next player can choose to have us re-roll one of our dice. So this time he's going to go ahead and have us re-roll the yellow dice. And it comes up as a sleep symbol. So at this point, then our player has the choice again to either rest, or he can push his luck 1 final time for a massive amount of dice. So that one would be 8 dice that he'll choose. So our player is going to go ahead and rest. And again, like I said, at this point, he can choose to either remove 1 of the shadow symbols or all of the dice from his exhausted states that are sleep dice. So we're going to go ahead and remove a green dice from that symbol there. As if our player would gather 3 of those shadow symbols in any section, then he would become a nightmare of that particular color. So moving over to our next player, again, he's going to choose his control. So he's going to go on the conservative side and go with 3 dice. Again, he's going to choose 2 of those dice to return to the bag. He's going to roll 1. And it's a sleep symbol, so he'll place that, and then he can choose to push his luck, so he's going to, and that'll let him draw 5. He'll return 2. So let's return the blue and the yellow. Rough roll. So here he has the choice to place his things in any order he wants again. So he's going to go ahead and place that and move it to his hunt space. He'll place this one, and he's not going to move that. And then he'll finally place this one. And again, our player has the choice of having him re-roll 1 of his dice. So he's going to go ahead and choose to have him re-roll the exhaust dice. And again, he has that, so he has that choice, and each time a player either chooses to have him re-roll a dice or whatever reason, you have to resolve that dice again. So he has the choice again to move that to his hunt side, and he's not going to at this point. And so he's going to stop his turn there and rest, and he will return 1 of the red dice. So this is going to continue on, so I'm going to go ahead and take some turns off camera and come back with the game further in progress. So we've had some interesting new things happen. So our player down here has not been doing well and decided to move over to the dark side and become a nightmare of the primal fear. So at this point, the other players are going to have to be really careful about rolling red dice, as he's going to be able to take those from them if certain symbols come up. And our other two players are not doing too bad, with one having 7 points and the other at 5. Though he is looking a little rough here in his shadow zone, so we might see something bad happen there too. But let's go ahead and move on. So we're going to have this player take his turn. He's going to go ahead and go with 4 dice. And he's going to choose 2 to return. So he's going to return those 2 red ones. 2 eyeballs. So let's go ahead and spend 1 of our power to re-roll those dice. So we picked up a sleep and a point. Then we're going to go ahead and press our luck at 6. Return 2. Picked up another point. This sleep one will convert to an eye. That's the only one we have. And then the other player is going to choose a dice to have us reroll. So he's going to have us reroll that red. And the red comes up as an eye, so now our player down here will gather it. And then he can choose to move one of the eyeballs up to the hunt field of that player, but he's not going to do that. So that'll be it for that player. He doesn't want to do anything else, so he's going to go ahead and return one of these greens. Moving over to our player here, he's going to go ahead and go with 3. So we got 3 dice. He's going to return these 2. And he picks up a point. He's going to hold there, make it a quick turn. Alright, so then we're back down here to our player, and he has a couple of choices. So he can either draw 2 dreams and return 1 to the bag, and then target one of the other dreamers and have them roll and resolve it. Or he can move a 1 point or 2 point dream from another player's board to his board, matching the color of his nightmare. So with our guy being Primal Fear or the red nightmare, he can choose to target the red dice, and he's the only one that'll be able to take the 2s, as those are the only ones that come up on those are the red dice. So he's going to go ahead and draw 2 dice from the bag and select one of those for a player to roll. So he's going to go ahead and give that one to that player there and have him roll it. And he ended up getting a point, so not what our nightmare guy was hoping for. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and jump back in a couple more turns, and so you guys can see the game in a little bit later stage. Alright, so we've definitely seen some shifts in the game. Our nightmare player is doing really well with only being 3 points away, and our player up here has definitely moved ahead from where he was in the past and picked up. He's 2 points away from winning or triggering the end game result. So let's go ahead and continue from here. So it's our player over here's turn, and so he's going to do 4 dice and choose 2 to return. So he's going to return the 2 reds, and he has a blue that he'll resolve. He has to do this one first, which is not good. He's filled up his sleep column, and resolving this one, another sleep. So at this point, he's going to have to stop and resolve his exhausted state. So when this happens, then he has to draw 1 dice from the bag and return all of the points of that color. Then he's going to have to end his turn. So he's going to go ahead and do the exhausted ones to get rid of them. Moving over to our player here, he's going to go ahead and be conservative and pick up 2, or pick 3 and choose 1. So he's going to go ahead and take a green, and he picks up a point. And he's going to go ahead and stop there and clear his sleep. Moving over to our nightmare player, he is going to take 1 point from our player here. No, he's going to take it from our player up here. And that'll be his turn. So moving back over to our player here, he is going to go with 4. And let's go ahead and roll these. Unfortunately, he rolled pretty bad again. He's got another sleep, and he gives our nightmare player another point. And the nightmare is going to move. He's going to go ahead and move one of his shadows over to here, because he wants to potentially grab that point to finish the game. So then our player has a choice. He can either push his luck now that he hasn't exhausted, or he can stop where he's at. So he's going to go ahead and stop right there. So he's going to clear off the blue, and it's going to come over to our player here, who is going to go ahead and go with 4 dice, returning 2 of them. He's going to return those. Picks up a point, and he's got a blue eye, so he'll resolve that. Picks up a yellow. And picks up another point. So he's going to go ahead and stop the game there and trigger the end game. So he's going to end, and so it'll move back over to our nightmare player. The nightmare player could take the point here from our player over there, but if he does that, he will only tie with our player up here. And ties are broken by how many dice the players have, so he's definitely going to lose to him. So he's going to go ahead and draw 2 dice instead and see what he can do with that. So he's going to go ahead and have our player up there roll that red dice. And it's a point for him, and then he can move one of the players' things over, which isn't really going to help him that much. And then we have our player over here. So he's going to go ahead and go with 5 dice. And he's going to return 2. Picks up 2 points from the blue. And he picked up an eyeball. So that's going to convert that. And push his luck with 7. Lots of yellow. So he's going to return 2 yellow. He's picked up 3 more points. And he's going to spend the yellow that he just picked up to re-roll these other 2. And picks up 2 more points. Wow. What a comeback. So he can push his luck one more time. Most likely it's not going to work out for him. But what does he have to lose? So he's going to go for it. He's going to pull 9 dice. And return 2 of those. So he's going to return those and go for these. Alright, so this time not so good. He picked up 2 more points, which is good for that. And a sleep. And then he has to resolve these. So this one will go to this guy, and then he's going to go ahead first off and spend 1 blue to re-roll the blue. Picks up another eye. So he's going to spend another blue, try it again. Picks up a 1 this time. And then he's going to go ahead and do that with yellow as well. Yellow still is being stubborn. He's going to spend his last point. Still the yellow. So unfortunately, he is going to turn into an imprisonment, nightmare of imprisonment. So he'll get rid of all his dice on his fields and become a nightmare of imprisonment. Well, it was close. So we're going to go back over here, and he triggered the end game. So the game is over at this point. And so he has 15 points, but our nightmare player was able to squeak out that victory at the end and picked up 16 points, which was just enough to beat our other player. Well, I hope that gave you guys a good idea how the game plays. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave those in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. And as you guys can see, I really enjoyed this game. I like the different aspects to it, and I like how dynamic it is as far as the game progresses and things happen. The entire game changes. As you guys could see initially at the beginning of the game, players are more focused on getting power points and doing things that are going to affect them in that manner. As soon as one or more of the players become nightmares, the entire game changes, and there's a huge shift in the players and how they select their dice and how they try to avoid those particular colors by aiding that other player and activating their bonus abilities. So, as always, thanks so much for watching my video. I do really appreciate you guys taking the time, and please think about supporting this Kickstarter. If you like dice checking games and this video looks interesting, go ahead and head over to their Kickstarter page, which I will have a link to in the comment section below. And as always, I will see you guys later.